How's it going, you guys? We're going to be answering any questions inside my free online academy. I'll quickly post the link in the chat real quick, and then we'll get to answering questions. This will be an hour long, so if you guys have any questions, make sure you hop over to the free academy, post your questions there. I'll pin this on the chat over here. All right, perfect. So, first question we have is from, let's see, Kylo Pan, asking for snack recommendations. All right, so he's asking, what are some good snacks throughout the day, pre-practice? All right. Well, I think this is just in general, what should you be eating? For training, you want to have a lot of energy. So normally you're eating carbs. But the thing with wrestling is it gets weird when you're cutting weight, right? So training for wrestling ends up being a lot different than a lot of other sports, right? With um, football, basketball, soccer, you don't have to think about how much you weigh and take that into consideration when you're fueling for practices. But in general, my recommendation is having carbs. I'm not slamming a bunch of candy. Um, Making sure I'm hydrated. I think hydration normally matters more, or at least just as equal for practices. A lot of times, kids will cramp up if they're working really hard. So that's my little recommendation for that. Have some carbs, sandwiches, just eat healthy. You'll be good. All right. Let's see. If you guys have any questions, just join my free online academy. Link's right there, and I will be answering all the questions there. All right. So this is a question from Mike. He's asking, how do I stop reaching behind? My kids had their first tournament and they did well against some really experienced wrestlers, but ended up losing when they reached back to grab the opponent's head. This is super common. I don't know if you're a coach or you've watched youth wrestling, but a lot of times the kid on bottom will just reach back, grab the person on top's head, flip them over, and pin them. And because they're able to pin a lot of people, they'll keep doing it. But as you get older and you start reaching back, a lot of times it, it, it will keep you down on bottom. And sometimes you'll even get pinned with like a half Nelson. So, what I recommend if your kid is reaching back a lot is put them up against the best kids in your class and let them get pinned a bunch of times. I think that's one of the best ways to help kids who are hitting moves that won't work at a higher level. So you have a beginner, he's doing headlocks, just throwing people all the time, and that's all he's doing. He's standing up, he's not getting in a good stance. I would put him up against really good competition until he realizes that those moves are not going to work the way he's hitting them as he continues to get better. That's kind of what I do. So if I have a newer wrestler who's keeps grabbing the head, doing headlocks, just doing random moves that really aren't very high level, I will tell them to go against one of my better wrestlers in the room and just get beat up. And I'll just keep coaching them, telling them, stop grabbing the head, stop grabbing the head, stop grabbing the head. And they'll just keep getting pinned and we'll kind of work them out of that habit. All right. That's my recommendation with that. All right. Just going through. If you guys have any questions, make sure you join my free online academy and I'll be answering all the questions in there. You just see Leonardo's asking, I'm currently a freshman at 120, cutting down. This is more like a match review. Let me get like a technical question for you guys. See. All right. All right, we got a stance recommendation. If any of you guys are boxers, right? In boxing, it's taught to have your non-dominant leg forward. So for striking, if I'm a righty, I'll have my left leg forward. so that I can have my power punches. I mean, I'm not a boxer, so if I'm saying it the wrong way, let me know. But so that you can strike with your right hand because it's stronger, right? That you can jab with your lead hand, the weaker hand, and you can hit like those power shots with your backhand. Now, with wrestling, it's normally taught to have your lead leg be your dominant side, so, which would be the right side. So when a boxer switches from, you know, boxing to wrestling or kickboxing to wrestling, they have to decide, well, what lead leg do I keep forward? Do I keep my right leg forward? Do I switch to my left leg? I think it doesn't matter too much. I think if I was a boxer, I'll just tell you what I would do. If I was a boxer and I was boxing for a while and I wrestled and I was fighting with my left leg forward and I switched over to wrestling, I would probably keep my left leg forward. I would just get used to hitting a shot. I mean, I don't think it's like the biggest deal. You're so used to having that left leg forward anyways, and you have good motion there in boxing. So I would keep that left leg forward. That's my recommendation. But if I was just starting out with wrestling, I'd probably put my right leg forward if I was a righty. So if you guys are transitioning from striking to wrestling, or you still haven't gotten your stance down, in general, if you're a righty, your right leg will be forward. If you're a lefty, your left leg will be forward. If you guys are just joining and you want to ask questions, I'm answering all my questions inside my free online academy, where you guys are going to get a 50 free instructionals, over 50, an organized place, get all your questions answered. So make sure you hop on there. Moving on to Steven, asking about hand fighting. I'm very fast, lanky wrestler who wrestles from space and shoots blast doubles. How could I add hand fighting into my game besides just tap and go? I actually did comments on this one, and I'll explain. So if you're a tall wrestler and you're not very strong, maybe the hand fighting becomes tough. People that are strong end up being better at hand fighting. They can pull harder. They can, grab things a little tighter. One of the types I think that's really great for a taller person is attacking the wrists. So if you're a tall, lanky wrestler, going and grabbing a wrist, baseball gripping a wrist, or just grabbing a wrist with one hand or reverse grip, I kind of like that series. I mean, I think I would also, work some other tie-ups, but like tall people, I think underhooks are a little tougher. If your arm is super long, it can get clamped down easier. So I think underhooks are kind of harder to get. Um, Even like inside ties are hard to get for a taller wrestler because you have so much space. If you're shorter, you can kind of pull them in tight, so it's hard for them to fight inside. But if you're taller, your arms are longer, so it's kind of easier for them to just dig in on you, to fight and get inside control. So over ties are great for tall people too. Collar ties I think are fine, especially like hitting ankle picks. That's my recommendation. If you're a taller wrestler, you're having trouble with that hand fight, maybe try some shots from the wrist tie series. Um, but I think kind of underhooks, you can definitely go to these things, but underhooks are going to be more difficult to do. You'll see a lot of shorter people be better with underhooks. I liked underhooks, and I was like average height. So that is my answer to that one, Steven. Now moving on, see what else we got. We got tips on going against stronger guys. Okay. I wrestled a couple matches today and went against wrestlers much stronger than me. Every time I shot, they extend me effortlessly, and any way to prevent that. So if you're wrestling a stronger wrestler, how do you go about winning that match? I think the biggest thing is keeping your body compact. Here's what I mean by that. If you shoot on the person and they sprawl, you can't allow yourself to get extended. You can't allow yourself to get flat into your stomach. You have to be very you have to be very focused on keeping your body in tight. So when I shoot, I'm hugging tight, keeping my head up, trying to stay in good position. I'm not overextending myself. And the reason being is if you get extended on a stronger guy, it's so hard to fix your positioning. Like if I was going to wrestle a heavyweight, one of my heavyweight wrestlers, I would make sure if I shot that I was in such good position. I would be squeezing that leg, keeping my head as strong as possible. Think about it this way. Imagine you're wrestling a heavyweight. and you shoot it on their legs and they sprawl and you're flattened on your stomach. Imagine you're flat on your stomach, you have their legs, and a 300-pound person's laying on you. You're gonna have a lot of trouble recovering from that position. But if you were in a super tight ball and they were sprawling on you, you can withstand a lot more of that weight and a lot more of that strength. So when I'm wrestling a stronger person, I really focus on my positioning, never let them get, and my hand fighting is very stingy. I never let them get good. Like if a strong person gets double underhooks on you or a body lock, you're in trouble. So I'm very stingy with my hand fighting and trying to stay in the best position possible. If you guys have questions, make sure to join my free online academy. If you just joined, I'm answering all the questions there, and I'm answering it for the next 40 minutes. You guys have plenty of time. So make sure you go on there and post your questions. I'm reading right now from my online academy. And I'll be I'm accepting the request too as well. So Adam, I know you just asked for a request, just accepted you. All right, moving on to other questions. Best moves to chain double legs. I have a good blast double. I want to know what to learn to make it the best. Defensively, most people defend by stuffing and giving a head inside single or forcing you up off the legs to an upper body clinch. So I figured it's good to have good single leg finishes and a body lock series along with the double leg that I'm working on. What other moves can I use to chain my doubles to make it better? That's a great question. So if you guys like double legs, listen up. I think double legs are probably the best move, especially for beginners. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent for a second with the double legs. In general, in order to get a takedown on somebody, you have to get both legs. So even if you guys like a low single, well, you're gonna go low single and switch to a double. Or you like an ankle pick, you're gonna go ankle pick and then switch to a double at the end. You like high crotch, you're gonna go high crotch, switch to a double. You like single, you're gonna go backside finish, shelf, and go double. Most finishes end up collecting two legs. So if I was just starting out with wrestling, I would recommend learning that double leg because it makes the shot simpler. Like if you can just shoot to both legs and get them both right away, you don't have to worry about going from one leg to two legs. Now, if I was going to chain my double legs together, I definitely recommend, just like Saif said in his question, transitioning from a double to single leg finishes. I think very good at that. Um, the tough thing with the double, I think, is being able to square the person up. So if I'm wrestling somebody who's really good at double legs, I'm going to do a very heavy lead leg forward. I'm going to keep my legs very staggered so that they can only get to one leg. So if you only have a double, um, I think it's sometimes to tough to score against an opponent who's just going to split their lead legs on you. So you might have to have a high crotch or a single. I was actually just watching the Oklahoma State versus, what was it? Oklahoma State wrestled NC State, and they have the whole match posted on YouTube. You guys can look at that whenever you have the chance. And I think it was like the 157 or 49. He was like number 4 in the country. First initial was J. He hit a lot of doubles on his opponent. And Saif, if you're watching this, I would go watch that duel meet and find this guy I'm talking about. Because a lot of times, I think every shot was a double, but the person sprawled and he would be on that single and finish the single. So I think that's kind of your best bet. I don't see a lot of like other different finishes though from there. If you had double finish single or double the body lock, you should be fine as far as those finishes. And then just maybe adding some different, just totally different shots in general. All right, moving on. And if you guys just joined, make sure you join my free online academy. I'm approving memberships right now so that you guys can post your questions. But I'm going through answering any questions. We got about over 45 minutes left of this Q&A. Do them every single Tuesday. All right. Jacoby's asking about a practice plan. I'm new to high school coaching. Can someone help with a practice plan and some conditioning exercises? So if you're a coach, definitely pay attention. Or maybe you're a wrestler and you want to help your coach plan a better practice. I'll just give you the way I like to do it, and then take it or leave it, or maybe there's some things you like from it. In general, I'm splitting my practices are an hour and a half long. Um, I don't really do longer than that. I don't think it's necessary to have like a 3-hour long practice. I would rather have my athletes do like 2 hour and a half long workouts in a day than like a three hour long practice, just because they can put more focus into that hour and a half. 3 hours tends to be long. I mean, I can some I've heard of some practices that are like 3.5, 4 hours. I don't know. Let me know in the chat how long your guys' practices are, because I've heard of practices like 3.5, 4, 5. Definitely not 5. I've heard of 4-hour long practice. I'm like, that's insane. But yeah, we do hour and a half long practice. In general, we go half an hour drilling, half an hour technique, half an hour live. The drilling is I normally do open style drilling. Sometimes we'll work through different positions, but normally it's just takedowns to escapes as I walk around and help each group. And then I do a half an hour of technique. We normally do the same technique for a full week. Maybe we're working on single leg finishes or top or bottom. The technique I normally choose is going to be technique that's going to help everybody. I will show kind of random fun moves, but I do like focusing on moves that everyone needs to know. What moves does everybody need to know? You need to know double single high crotch, shot recovery, scoring from a front headlock, is general escapes on bottom. You need to have some sort of top series, but that can vary depending on who the athlete is. Maybe show something for your team. Just pick something. Um, if you're able to, you can give some variety there. But I'm not going to necessarily, spend one day on Russian tie, then one on elbow tie, then one on wrist tie. It's like it's so confusing that your wrestlers will never get really good at anything. So I allow in the open drill opportunities for them to focus on the things that they need, that each individual athlete needs, and then for the for the technique portion, I'm going to show the entire group things that are going to benefit everybody. And then I go live. You can do various styles of live. You could do shark bait stuff where you have 3 people, winner stays in. You can do just live goes, 3 minutes a piece, and just kind of rotate. That's what I normally do, where you just do like 3-minute live go. All right, time switch partners, time switch partners. You just kind of keep rolling through that. And then if you want to finish off with a stance of motion, maybe a hard little cardio thing, you could definitely do that as well. But that's how I run my practices. I didn't want to go into super detail with that unless you're a coach. May or may not be too important for you. Um, and then again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you join my free online academy. Links up here. I'm approving all the memberships, and you guys can post and ask your questions. I'm just going through right now. We got a jiu-jitsu question, so maybe this will. If any of you guys are jiu-jitsu athletes, I know I put that in the thumbnail. I do have a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes inside the community trying to get their takedowns better. Any advice on how to get into tie-ups? This is Kawhi, I think. Any advice on how to get into tie-ups with people that don't want to wrestle? Perfect, right? Um, People backing up. I think I made a video on this too. It doesn't have a lot of views because it's kind of a weird subject. Something related to like, what do you do when somebody backs up or something like that? There's a couple things I'm gonna look to do. If somebody was backing away from me and didn't want to engage when I'm trying to get to my tie-ups and wrestle, the first thing I'm gonna do is look for a stall call. So I'm gonna stay in a good stance, keep my hands low, and I'm gonna stalk the person. Stalking just means like you're walking into them and backing them up, and you're cutting them off. So when they try to circle back in bounds, you cut them off. You cut them off. You keep backing them towards the out of bounds line, and then you shoot them off the mat. You hit your knee and kind of shoot them off the mat, and you'll get a stall call. That's the first thing I'm going to do. If I'm having trouble with that, another thing, or maybe I don't really have time to get these stall calls or whatever the case might be, another great option is stop going into the person, because obviously if you walk into them, they'll back up. So if they keep backing up, we'll stop walking into them and circle to engage. So when you circle, they're gonna circle. So that's what I recommend. Circle to engage instead of walking straight into them, and look maybe to grab their wrist and then kind of work into a tie up. If you're very heavy pressure forwards, people will tend to like back away because they don't want that pressure. So you almost have to like um, make them let their guard down so they stop backing up. Okay. Going on to the next question. And if you guys want any of your questions answered, make sure to join my free online academy. I'm approving memberships. I'm going to be on here for another 40 minutes. You got plenty of time. Hop on the academy. Link is pinned at the top. I'll approve your membership, and then you guys can post your questions in the academy, and I'll go through and answer anything you guys might have. Okay. All right. Chris is asking, about to step into coaching my son's team, 6-year-olds. All right. The coaches are either completely inattentive or not around to coach the little energetic kiddos. They focus solely on the higher level kids. I had choice words with all of them, inevitably have volunteered to coach. My experience is as a heavyweight, but I understand the fundamentals enough to teach the little ones what is necessary. All right. My question is, with coaching, how do I coach at a level where I am being an educator, keeping the kids on the right path and not allow my resentment to develop for my son? With both the sport and myself as his dad, struggling with the possibility, and it's the only reason I didn't jump into coaching straight away with Tio. All right. So here's my recommendations, Chris. I'm guessing you're on this call as well because you kind of just posted your question. So if I actually have a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 3-year-old, so I'll be coaching my sons at some point soon. And how do I go about? How would I go about coaching my kids? I would treat them definitely the same as everybody in the class, at least during the practices. Obviously, he's my son, so it could be a little different. There's obviously different dynamic, but the way I would like to do it is treat them all the same. Um, that means if I felt like I kept going to my son more than the other kids, I would try to make sure I checked myself and made sure I went to each group. Um, I'm very focused on the fundamentals. Single, it's double, it's high crotch, it's sprawling, it's the crossface series on top. I think is a great series to show little kids forearm, near leg, flip, forearm, arm chop, break them flat, half Nelson, stuff like that. On bottom, I'm doing tripod stand ups and maybe a little sit out to like turn in or like not turn in, but more like a hip heist. I don't like to sit and roll. That's just my little 2 cents on that. But those are the moves I'm focusing on. And then even as they get better, okay, it's still the same moves. Hit a double. What do you do? And then what do you do when your partner sprawls? All right, backside finish, out the back finish, cut to a double finish. So kind of understanding those type of things. If you guys go to my YouTube channel, I have level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 playlists. And it's what I recommend kids to learn as they continue to progress. Yeah, then you move on to level 2, level 3, level 4. So if you wanted to search that on YouTube, it will show you the exact moves that I would like him to get down. Those level 1 moves and then those level 2 moves would be the next step. Some other little advice I would do as far as coaching, I prefer when I'm coaching the younger kids, I prefer standing and making sure I can see the whole class. Now, I will go up to a kid and help them with a little adjustment, but ideally, I want to use my voice to correct them from a distance so that I don't. You go to one group and you start focusing on them so much, and you turn around and you have the 2 other little 6-year-olds bouncing off the wall, acting wild, right? So I actually make sure everybody gets the attention. So I stand back and I'm just looking group to group. I'll walk around, make sure I'm walking. I'm not going to stand in the same place, but I'm kind of using more of this um, zone defense, right? I'm looking at the whole group. I don't want to get stuck on one kid for too long because these are little kids. They're going to be causing a lot of discipline stuff. You got to make sure you stay on top of, correcting them when they start walking around or running up the wall. So that's my recommendation with that style of stuff. So I'm focused on those moves. I'm kind of making sure I'm being equal to each kid. The way I normally coach kids is I tell them one thing they did right. So I say, really, really great speed with that double leg. And then I tell them one thing they did wrong. But I want to see you get that head up a little bit more. You're looking down at the mat. Let's get your head up. Let's do that again. And the goal over their first years of development is not necessarily learning a million moves. It's having them develop these few skills and get them better. Because there's a difference between your son's double leg, Chris, and Jordan Burroughs' double leg. And you need to get your son's double leg to Jordan Burroughs' double leg. You don't need to have him know double leg, ankle pick, sweep single, low single, knee pull single, like front headlock throw by, DJ, cradle. You don't need to know all these things for his wrestling. You know, you got to get the double, high crotch, single, know the different finishes there. Score from the front headlock. DJ is perfect, a great move, but just even snap down, go behinds. Keep it simple. Those are my recommendations. Hopefully that helped a little bit, Chris. I'm going to move on though. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, I'm approving memberships inside my free online academy. Link is posted at the top. That's where I answer all my questions. I do this live every single Tuesday at 1:00, hour long, plenty of time for you guys to hop in and ask any questions you have. So if you have a question, make sure you click the link at the top, pinned up there. Join the academy. I'll approve you, and then you can post your questions inside the academy. But moving on to the next question. All right. All right. Jack's asking finishes for high crotch or single leg. I feel like whenever I get a high crotch or a single leg, I'm never able to finish it. My opponents always hop around, counter it, or end up scrambling with me. Do you guys have any tips for me to execute and secure the takedown? So if you've been following the way I coach and the things I believe in, you know that I believe in each wrestler is individual. They have their own techniques, their own strengths. One's tall, one's short, one likes double legs, one likes low singles, and they all can work. And mastering those techniques and those skills that benefit your strengths is how you're going to get success as quick as possible. So, with that being said, as far as high crotch and single leg finishes go, everybody needs to know them. And I'll explain why. Say you're an athlete or you're the actual athlete and you like to do an ankle pick, a single leg, and a snap down. Okay. And then another athlete likes to do a double leg and a fireman's carry and a snap down. So these are two different wrestlers. They got two different moves. One's focusing on the fireman's carry, one focusing on the ankle pick. The problem is if they don't know the single leg finishes, which are backside, cut double out the back door, or the high crotch finishes, crackdown, shelf double, lift from the center, Iranian finish, they will not be able to finish those takedowns on against better wrestlers. And I'll give you a couple examples. That one wrestler who likes the fireman's carry, when he shoots a fireman's, some of the people he wrestles is going to pull their arm free and he's going to end up in a high crotch. A fireman's is the same thing as a high crotch without the arm. So does he know how to finish that high crotch? Okay. And then what if he only hits high crotches? He doesn't hit singles. Well, when he wrestles an opponent, they're going to take his head from the outside and stuff it to the inside. And now he's going to have to know his single leg finishes. Say you're like, hey, I don't even care about high crotches and singles. All I do is ankle picks. Okay, well, you're the ankle pick guy. If you go ankle pick and the person stands up, so you end up getting extended, you have to let go of the head and switch off to a double or a high crotch. And when they sprawl in a double, you switch to a single. My point with this little rant for a second, you have to know single leg finishes and high crotch finishes. What moves and style you like to wrestle? You're gonna end up on one leg. You're gonna have a leg, and your head's either gonna be on the outside or the inside, and you have to know the finishes. So I'll reiterate just kind of what those finishes are. Single leg, you got a backside finish, you got a cut double finish, and an out the back door finish. And even with backside, it gets more complicated than that, but I'm trying to keep it simple. So those are the three. And essentially it's go one way, go the other, or come out the back door. High crotch is very similar. You got crackdown where you go one way, you got shelf double, go the other way, or you got an Iranian lift, where it's just when you lift them up on your shoulder, very similar to a crackdown position. So what I recommend how to get good at that is drilling those 3 singles and 3 high crotch finishes, and always having your partner sprawl on you when you wrestle so that you get used to every rep hitting these types of finishes. Okay? So that's my recommendation for high crotch single leg finishes. Going on to the next question. If you guys have any questions, make sure you join Free Online Academy. Link is up there. Or if this is the recording, the link will be in the description. Be ready for next Tuesday's live session where you can ask your questions, get them answered. All right. Let me just make sure. Just going through the academy, making sure I answer all the questions. So just give me a second while I find the next one. All right. All right. Genesis is asking, getting past the inside tie. This is a late post, but I've searched online for this, but I can't really find a good step-by-step description of how to get past someone who has a good, strong inside tie, like blocking the inside tie and grabbing around the back of the tricep. Okay. So when I think of inside tie, I think of the tie where you grab the tricep. That's probably the most common tie people like to do is inside tie, and then they go collar tie with the other hand. How do I beat an inside tie? In general, right when somebody gets an inside tie on me, I personally like doing a thumb block. So right when somebody gets an inside tie, say they grab this tricep, I'll try to back up as much as I can. My thumb blocks their shoulder. And that just allows me to kind of negate their inside tie. When somebody has an inside tie and you have a thumb block, they cannot attack on you. So that's an easy, very easy way to just, if somebody's really good with inside tie, you take your hand, you take your thumb, you post it on their shoulder over top, and that will just block them from shooting. They literally will not be able to shoot on you unless they clear that thumb block. You can also fight inside. I don't, so if somebody has an inside tie here, I don't really like to have my own inside tie or collar tie. I normally go, I like collar tie, but I normally clear it. So if somebody gets an inside tie on me, I go thumb block and chop it off. Thumb block, chop. That's how I deal with the inside tie. Thumb block, chop. There's other ways. I think that's the best though for an inside tie. My general advice for hand fighting though is once you get their tie up off, you guys have to get to your tie up. So everyone needs to know in their head, hey, when you, I'll answer that in a second, Ricky. I was just in the middle of train of thought. When you guys are hand fighting, you need to know the tie up you're trying to get to. So Genesis is asking, hey, how do I beat somebody with a good inside tie? Well, I said, hey, thumb block, chop it off. But if you don't then go to your tie up, which might be an underhook or your own inside tie, then you're just going to be constantly thumb blocking and chopping and thumb blocking and chopping, and you'll never be able to develop your own attacks. So Genesis, make sure if somebody has an inside tie or a collar tie or whatever tie they have on you, thumb block, clear it off, and then continue to hand fight to your tie up. Because that person you wrestled is just going to continue to get to that inside tie unless you continue to hand fight to your tie up. And then Ricky's asking about my playlist where I do my level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Yeah, so here at Iron Faith, I know we might get some slack from it, but we have a belt system. So we do a belt system for wrestling. I know some of you guys might be like, oh man, don't make wrestling like jujitsu or whatever. We don't, there's always going to be the competition with wrestling. I mean, our kids they wrestle at states, national events, like they're going to feel competition. Wrestling, I don't think will ever become like necessarily karate or even jiu-jitsu. But I wanted to create a system to help my kids learn the technique. So if you go to my YouTube playlist, you see level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. I just made quick videos for my athletes. They go to the playlist, they watch. Hey, I just started wrestling. I need to know those level 1 techniques. Once they know the techniques and I think they're good enough, I promote them I test them on the techniques and promote them to level 1, then level 2, level 3, level 4, and we have up to level 5. So similar to like the black belt system, black belt system with like judo or jujitsu or whatever. And it just helps them get the techniques I want them to get down. Some younger kids get motivated from that. You're just finding ways to motivate these kids. Are they going to be motivated by getting a gold medal? Are they going to be motivated by just wanting to be a better wrestler, which is more the ideal situation? Our kids going to get motivated by wanting to be ranked up. So that's kind of how we do it here. Yeah. So it's not just knowing the technique. There's also in our head when we rank people up, because everybody competes at our club, we do in my head, I do have like, oh, this level is this quality of wrestler. Like, for example, level 3 in my head is a middle school state champ or a high school state placer. So that's kind of my head of that's kind of essentially nobody really gets promoted to that level unless they're at that level. They know the technique, but they're also good, right? Um, Level 4 to me is, you're close to being an All American in high school. You're at least a high school state champ. Maybe you're a college wrestler. And level 5, I haven't promoted anybody this yet, but level 5, you can at least take me down a couple times when I'm trying, right? So nobody's at my level. Nobody's got my black belts of Iron Faith. All right, now going back to questions, you guys. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you join my free online academy. Links posted at the top. I'm going through the questions, answering everybody. Do this every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, let me see what we got. Luke. Luke's asking, what are your best low risk takedowns? Ooh, I like this. So I actually maybe build some suspense for these 21 people that are currently on. I'm posting a video probably next week about the 5 best takedowns for jujitsu. I know like most of my audience is wrestlers. You'll get a lot of it for wrestling wise too. But I rank the risk. What's the risk reward, ratio? And it got me thinking, as I'm making that video, yeah, what takedowns have the lowest risk? And Jamie, no, they can do a lot of the takedowns. There's just some things that will put people in a risky situation. So, for example, if you shoot underneath somebody, it's more risky than doing like a go behind, right? What risks do you have in wrestling? If you shoot, you have the risk of the person spinning around and taking you down. You also have the risk of getting very tired from just trying to finish the shot. So, like, in my opinion, something like a foot sweep is a pretty high reward, pretty not too risky because there's a little risk that they might grab your leg or you might slip. But the problem with the foot sweep is that it's super technical. So I don't really recommend that. I mean, if I was going like lowest risk shot or lowest risk takedown for wrestling, it would be probably a front headlock or a high single. Um, I think blast double is kind of a low risk shot too. It takes a decent amount of energy, but your head's hitting them in the chest, not on the side. So it's a lot of times when people sprawl, you'll end up being able to back out easily without getting go behind. So I think my ranking of low risk takedowns, front headlock, number 1, high single, number 2, maybe blast double, number 3. Those are my lists right there. So I love high single too. I wish people use that more, even a high single against smaller wrestlers. You think of high single as a heavyweight move. Aaron Pico, he did a head outside high single, was very known, was had a great high single. He was a really high level wrestler, and he was like a middleweight, like 145 or something. And he wouldn't hit his knee. High single just means you're not hitting your knees. very dominant with a head outside high single where he just literally wouldn't touch his knee. I do it all the time. Super low risk. If somebody sprawls on on a single, you can just on a high single, you can just let go of it. So that's the low risk of it. Jamie's asking about ankle picks. Yeah, ankle picks aren't bad too. I think there's not a lot of risk. You have slight risk. People, whenever I wrestle people that do ankle picks, they're not good at it. They'll end up being extended, so they won't pull the head down enough, so their hand will stay up high where the collar tie is, and then they'll reach and they'll end up being very extended, and it's kind of easy to expose them there and be able to take them down. All right, 20 more minutes left, you guys. Make sure you guys join my free online academy. I'm answering all the questions in there. And thank you, Caleb, for going through and posting the timestamps for that. That's awesome. Let's see what else we got. Ashton is asking, does anybody have setups? Does anybody have tips for setting up high crotches? Tips for setting up high crotches. So, I mean, my best tip, to probably give you the most in-depth thing, Ashton, is go to the classroom section inside my online academy. Link is right there. And find the high crotch video. And I go in depth about high crotch finishes. I don't know if you guys know, but like I said, I have like 55 or more free instructional videos over an hour long. The best information I could possibly get on any topic you guys want. I see Ethan asking a question. What is the best leg riding pinning combination? I have like 3 videos on leg riding, hours long. I have a lot of information in there. And if you guys do join the online academy or you're already a part of that, go and focus on those techniques that you want to know. Because I created so many, my point was not to overwhelm you guys. I want you guys to find you like leg riding, go focus on the leg riding videos. You like high crotches, go focus on the high crotch video. As far as setups for the high crotch, the best setup, the most common one is probably just clubbing their head and shooting a high crotch. There's a lot of different ones you can do though. I think post high crotch is really nice. Underhook high crotch is good. It's kind of tough though, I think, to open the elbow up and shoot underneath an underhook, especially if they're pinching down really hard. So I prefer club high crotch, post high crotch. Elbow pass high crotch, I think, is okay. You kind of get turned a little weird though, so that the shot feels a little awkward. But that's not a bad option as well. So those are my recommendations for high crotch finishes. Thank you, Ricky. He's saying the instructionals are great. I mean, even if you guys didn't even want to use the community section, you hop in, you get any of your watch any video possible, and I make new ones every month. So moving on to the next question. Got another 15 minutes or so here. Let's see what we got. What is the best approach to handling a wrestler that drops to the ground? I think I might have already answered that one from a while back. All right, this is a little bit of a longer one, but Saif's asking about his neutral system. What would it be better for me to build my slide by and sweep single on my left side? Because most people are right leg lead and collar tie with right hand, making it easier to hit both. Let me just see. All right. Saif, so he's just asking a general question about slide bys. I don't know if any of you guys like slide bys, um, but if you do, you have to step your leg forward on the side you're sliding by to. So say I wanted to slide by to the right side. I have to step my right leg forward and then hit the slide by. If I wanted to slide by to the left side, I have to step my left leg forward and hit the slide by. Whole video on slide bys to you guys. Like I said, I pretty much have everything. The new ones I have coming out later on, I'm probably do a Granby series, and a lot of people were asking about the Blair ride. Probably do that too. So, but that's just some future stuff. Going back, okay. So for slide bys, I think, yeah, if you're already good at a slide by to one side, I think having it to the other side would be perfect. I think a lot of times you'll end up doing a different style of slide by to each side. For example, for me, I do an over tie slide by to the right side. I do like the slide by where you kind of punch them in the neck and you grab the tricep and pull by. I do that one to the other side. So, Saif, I think you can develop both to both sides, especially if you have a good slide by. And but a lot of times they're going to be different styles of slide by. Like Jack's Forest, I think goes like a slide by where he punches the neck and then grabs the tricep with this kind of reverse drape grip. And then on the other side, he does the elbow tie slide by. So that's the only little thing that you'll see there is maybe having a different style of slide by to each side. Moving on. Got 15 more minutes. I'll prove in Matthew's membership so you can ask questions, Matthew. Make sure you guys join the free online academy there. I'm answering any questions there. I do this every Tuesday, hour long, here to help the people get better at wrestling. All right, let me see if see what we got going on though. What's the next question? All right, we got another BJJ question. What are the best things to learn in wrestling for BJJ? So Zachary's asking, what are the best things to learn in wrestling for BJJ? I mean, it's definitely takedowns by a lot. I mean, if I train against, and I've only done jiu-jitsu for a few months, but I've, some of my friends are good at jiu-jitsu, and I roll with them here and there. The takedown difference between a wrestler and someone who does jiu-jitsu that never wrestled before is very big. And the value to knowing takedowns for jiu-jitsu is you will get on top of the person. When I do the takedown, I will end up on top. The person ends up on his back. Now, imagine you're a jiu-jitsu athlete and you like being on top and doing your submissions from side control, from mount. But then you come across a wrestler and you can't take them down. You have to pull guard. You keep getting taken down. And maybe you're not good enough at sweeping them to get on top. Because you're bad at wrestling, because you can't take the person down, you have to pick a position you're worse at. I also think I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a wrestler, but in my opinion, the takedown is the best part of jiu-jitsu. The best part of jiu-jitsu is the takedowns. It's the most exciting part. I watched CGI where Jason Nolf was competing in it for like one of his first jiu-jitsu matches. And it's like, that's what people want to see, I think. It's so boring watching people just hang out in, one position for like 30 minutes, just kind of like breaking a lock, making no real improvement. They don't really do a lot of stalemates, like it's more popular than wrestling, I think, in a lot of ways. But like, if they can get those takedowns a little, if they can up the rules so the takedowns are better, or the takedowns are more valuable, I think it's a significantly more entertaining sport. How is not a slam or a nice takedown not one of the best things to see? So it's a very simple answer. If you're a jiu-jitsu athlete, you need to get good at takedowns. I could see the sport heading in that direction more. And a lot of times it is. I think ADCC, I forgot all the rule sets, but there's certain rule sets where you can't pull guard for the first 10 minutes or whatever the case might be. So, but you do have to watch out for certain things. That's why I have my video coming out with one of my friends who's a jiu-jitsu athlete on the 5 best takedowns for jiu-jitsu. And I'll give you a couple maybe. Front headlock's one of them. high single, and I'll leave it at that. You guys have to watch it for the other ones, all right? So yeah, that's my recommendation. You just gotta get those takedowns better. Another, I think, as well as the pace of wrestlers are higher. So like, and we're just used to going live, like 100% live, and jujitsu athletes most often train not at that 100% pace. So wrestlers can break opponents, but a lot of times that high intensity of the wrestler will get them caught, get them submitted because they're just being so aggressive. They'll make little mistakes like that. You guys, any questions though, make sure you post them inside the community. I'm just going through 10 more minutes. And as we're wrapping up, now's the time. Jump in that free academy. Get access to over 50 free instructional videos. Link is posted up there. That's why I keep pointing up there. Answering all the questions as well. Just going through, see if there's anything else. Kevin's asking about youth and middle school. Our youth, K to 6, has 156 kids. That's awesome. We have to divide into 3 different practices due to coaches and space. The most mat time each group can get is 1.5 hours 3 times a week. As a team, we have a lot of success, but retention drops off sharply by middle school. I also help coach middle school. I have a son in youth and middle school. Tips on retention, fun in youth while keeping them competitive in the bigger area. Kevin, hopefully you're on the call still or on this live still. Do you guys have a middle school season? Like in Rhode Island, we have club wrestling and middle school wrestling. Middle school has their own state championships, and then once the kids are done with that, they go on and they wrestle in the club state championship. So middle school kids actually have 2 state championships in the state of Rhode Island. Massachusetts, on the other hand, they just have club states. They don't have the middle schools don't have a state championship. It's not like they compete against their like high schools. So I'm guessing it's more the Rhode Island kind of thing, the Rhode Island kind of route. I think getting buy-in from those middle school kids, like my middle school group is my biggest group actually as far as club members, and as far as keeping it fun, we play a little game of dodgeball every practice in the beginning. Another thing that I really think helps kids get more bought in is allowing them to build their system. What I mean by that is allowing them to pick their moves, especially as they get older. As kids get older, hey, what's your favorite takedown? What do you guys actually like to do? Because when they take ownership of their own technique, they love the sport so much more. They're like, these are the moves I love, and I'm hitting these moves in matches. And these are the moves I'm trying to get better at. Instead of just being like, coach told me I have to do these sets of moves. So giving them independence with the moves they're choosing, I think, is nice. I always play a game of dodgeball as a kind of a warm up. Get 2 dodgeballs called partner dodgeball. I explain that in one of my videos about the top like 8 or 10 games for wrestling. And a lot of like the buy-in is a lot of individual conversations. Getting a kid to believe. You got to get a kid to believe they can. You got to get them to believe that they can like accomplish anything, right? They got to believe that they can be a state champ. Because if you don't get your athlete to actually believe they can accomplish the goal, and even some of you guys, if you think about it this way, if you didn't think you're going to be a state champ, you will never put in the work to do it. So a lot of what I do is have these individual conversations, let the kids know you can be good, show them other wrestlers that have been in the same situation as them and accomplished great things in the sport. Once they believe they can do it, they'll buy in more. They'll start doubling up on practices. They'll wrestle all year round. I know it's not like, and I can help. I can give you some more answers too, Kevin. I'm just trying to give you some options there for the younger group. So that's like more middle school. For the younger group, like like you said, K to 5th, K to 6th. I do a couple things you can do. You can do challenges every month For example, whoever shows up to the most practices gets a free singlet, 75 bucks or whatever. Go to Takedown Shop and you can design a one-off singlet. Um, so monthly challenges I think have done well. We've had our retention and the amount of kids jump up when we do stuff like that. I do play games with the younger kids, not too long, 5-10 minutes. Snake in the grass, toe tap, stuff like that. Those are a couple little suggestions. And those super young kids don't worry so much about the like. I think everybody should actually be competing a lot. Not a crazy amount, but I don't necessarily recommend kids traveling every weekend super far across the country to find the toughest tournament ever when they're like 5 years old. Very, very common for the best college wrestlers that talked about how, hey, I didn't really start competing nationally until, I was later in middle school. So, but I do recommend kids competing, even young, compete. That's what I'm teaching the kids. I'm teaching this kid to deal with failure, and a lot of times these kids won't feel that unless they compete. So I'm not afraid whether they're gonna quit or not. If they're gonna quit, the sport's not really for them. I'm gonna encourage them, go and we're gonna go compete at this local tournament this weekend, and we're gonna work through that um, adversity. You're gonna cry. You're gonna lose. You're gonna cry. It's every 6-year-old, 7-year-old is doing that, And you're gonna, as a coach, gonna help develop them into the person that you want them to be. And competing helps with retention. Kids are not going to train for a whole year and never compete. Well, why are they training in the first place? They're training to improve and do better and compete better. So don't be afraid to push kids into competition. Um, local ones. Yeah, I really, again, I don't recommend being like, oh, you got to travel to Maryland this weekend, to PA, to that's not that big of a deal, especially as they're young. I didn't start competing it nationally until high school. I mean, I would still I think there are, I'm not gonna say I don't have any of my younger kids competing nationally. Uh, you know, we're gonna go do a national dual tournament for my elementary team, but they don't necessarily need to travel every weekend to PA or overdo it in that case. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that Q&A. If you aren't already on my free online academy, like I said, this video is already posted. Links in the description. Links up here. You get 50 full-length free instructional videos. I'll be able to answer any questions you have every Tuesday. Go through the post. I kind of go through and answer the questions. And yeah, I'll see you guys next Tuesday.